want to thank everyone for braving the terrible inclement weather. When I imagined this event, back when we scheduled the date, of course in my mind the main fear was that we would have a blizzard, you know, and then we would have the problem of people getting through the snow to get here. I did not realize we were going to have, you know, Noah's Ark conditions and a downpour like this in the middle of December, but I guess, you know, thankful that it's not snow. It could be worse. But I do want to thank everyone for braving the elements and making it here tonight. And glad to see all of you here safely. And in advance, be careful driving home, because it's probably not going to be any better when we leave. So don't rush out the door, because you're not going into anything good anyway. This is our second annual awards banquet. And it really, for me, is an inspiring thing every time, you know, we've done this. Get together in any venue, but especially now with the awards, because I and a few others, you know, remember how it was in the beginning, and when we were playing on baseball diamonds and in tennis courts and things like that with a tennis ball, you know, and we were just doing what we could with what we had at the time. But it's key to remember that people ask me all the time, you know, what do I need to start youth cricket in my area? How much money does it take to have what Maryland youth cricket has? You know, how do we get big sponsors to back youth cricket in our state, in our county, in our community? And the thing that I always tell them, and it's true, is that it's not about the money. You'd be surprised at how much we get done on how relatively little at Maryland youth cricket. But what we couldn't survive without are the volunteers. Every organization has them, our state has them. The people who give their time and their energy, I mean, for an amazing number of things that we get accomplished. Just incredible to me. And I tell people there are probably 2 or 3 dozen volunteers that make Maryland youth cricket go. And first thing, for me personally, as president of Maryland Youth Cricket and someone who saw this from the beginning, you have my eternal gratitude, and I'm in your debt, because without you, none of this happens. So before we even begin tonight, everybody who did anything this year, get your kids to a game, volunteer to coach, volunteer to umpire, give yourselves a big round of applause, because you're the stars. Now, among those many volunteers, I'm not going to name everyone, because first thing, we'd be here until 10:30, and I would miss some people, and I'd feel horrible, wouldn't sleep tonight. But there are a few that I want to mention. These are my committee heads. Maryland Youth Cricket got big enough a few years ago that we had to break it out. In the beginning, it was, you know, just me, so I made all the decisions, and then it was kind of me and Sham making all the decisions. And then we had some other people come into our circle of trust, and we were kind of making decisions as a small group. A couple of years ago, it got unwieldy enough that we broke ourselves into committees. And these committees are the folks that really do the back-breaking, operational, grinded-out work that make the state organization run. So first, I want to personally thank those committee chair, Rohan Chambers. Rohan, where are you? Stand up, Rohan. Rohan runs the Rules and Umpiring Committee. Before we had a Rules and Umpiring Committee, you would not believe the fights we had during the course of the season over, you know, rules and what the umpire was calling and what the umpire wasn't calling and who was the umpire. His committee has made our lives so much easier and so much better, and it's so much more professional. The other person I want to thank is Shafil Ahmed. Shafil, stand up for me. Shafil is the chair of our Tax and Scheduling Committee. Shafil does a lot of other stuff, Shafil is the one who tells everybody where they're supposed to go on Saturday morning and make sure that somebody is there to meet you to play you in a match. He's the one who works out the stats on cricket clubs and keeps all of that together. And again, it's a myriad mess that I would not want to even touch, but somehow he figures it out, him and his committee every year, and we are completely in his debt. And I can never, ever go forward without thanking my right hand, my right arm, the right side of my body, Sham Chutu. Earlier this year, I was looking back at my notes when I first went to the Bowie Boys and Girls Club with this idea that they might be interested in cricket. And the president of the Bowie Boys and Girls Club, I think his name was Eddie, said, there's a guy here who also likes cricket. His name is Sham Chutu. You probably ought to talk with him. if there was not an understatement in ever, all time, you might want to talk to Sham Chutu, that was the understatement of all time, because since I got connected to Sham, he is just going crazy, and a lot of the success you see in Maryland youth cricket, you can directly lay at his doorstep. The energy he has put into it, the new programs he started, the ideas he comes up with, things that I didn't think would work, that he makes work anyway. Without Sham, a lot of this just doesn't happen, so I'm eternally in his debt. I want to thank our VIPs for coming out tonight. We have a member of the USA national cricket team here. Now, we caught a break, not for him though. He got injured, and while he's rehabbing his injury, Sonny Sohal able to be with us here tonight. Sonny, with us also for the second year in a row, and probably, I hope, for many, many years to come, Mr. Frank Islam, who is the sponsor of our premier trophy, the Frank Islam Cup, which is right up here on the table. And, our featured speaker tonight is a very important person in state government. He's the one who gets all the big name events to come to Maryland and play in M&T Bank Stadium and FedEx Field and places like that. And he's key in driving the economic industry that sports is in the state of Maryland. He's going to speak to us later. Terry Hasseltine. Terry, but before you get to hear from all the fun and entertaining people, you have to put up with a little bit from me first, because that is my privileged role here as president of the state organization. When you're doing good things, after a while people start to recognize it. And I don't know how many people in this room watched the Canadian professional cricket tournament this summer, the Global T20 that ran out of Toronto. I watched quite a bit of it. And I was sitting there one day, actually I was watching a replay of it, and my wife was in the room, and she's on the computer, and I'm watching this match. And they're talking, and I'm half paying attention, you know, as we do when cricket's on. And all of a sudden, I stop and I say, did they just say Maryland Youth Cricket? And I thought, no, they couldn't. I'm going crazy. But I couldn't let it alone, so I stopped. I paused and I rewound, and all of a sudden, the announcers in this tournament are talking about us here in Maryland and singling us out as the only place worth mentioning. They were talking about grassroots cricket and how things are changing and how things are exploding, and we were the only place in the United States, anywhere, they mentioned by name what we were doing here in Maryland. And it was a really, really neat moment for me. It's like, wow, you know, somebody's paying attention. And we did a lot this year that was worth paying attention to. The schools cricket competition, which up until now had been confined to Maryland, largely thanks to Sham's efforts, spread into Northern Virginia, into Chantilly. So schools cricket is not only alive and doing well, it's now growing into adjacent states. And our hope is that we don't want to colonize Virginia, although many people in Virginia might think that's our secret ulterior motive. No, we really want Virginia to have enough teams and enough players that they one day spin off into the Virginia Youth Cricket Association, and then there's a mid-Atlantic Maryland versus Virginia rivalry, and we can play matches against each other and that kind of thing. But until then, we're delighted to have Virginia people involved in our programs and sharing what we do, and now schools cricket has grown into Chantilly. We created 2 new divisions in the state championship this year. The 13U division and the first ever girls cricket league in the United States. As I said, everywhere we go, Maryland is knocking down doors. We are breaking barriers and we are changing things. And people want to know what's the magic secret, you know, what's the mystery, what are we doing so well? It's hard work. It's a lot of people working really, really hard all the time and making these things happen. Our 4 state championship trophies each got sponsors this year. And I want to thank all of our sponsors who got behind us, because you know, I say there's not a lot of money to run Maryland Youth Cricket, but there is some money, so we're always grateful for that. Super Over Sports sponsors our 11U trophy, and no, 13U trophy. That's right. And where's Ricky? Is Ricky here? There we go. Ricky Brothers Discount sponsors our 16U trophy, as I mentioned earlier, is the Frank Islam Cup. Mr. Islam stepped up and is backing our prestigious 16U trophy. And the girls' trophy is the AmericanCricketers.com trophy, sponsored by folks who aren't even in the state of Maryland, but heard what we were doing, and were so excited that they wanted to get behind what we were doing. So most places have trophies they give away. I think Maryland is probably the only place where all of those trophies, those championship trophies, are actually sponsored. Again, because people want to be associated with what we're doing here. And that's really, really important. It's nice also when those sponsors go the extra mile and step up. And Super Over Sports and Norris Sports all stepped up and gave equipment to our players this year to reward them for jobs well done. So thank you to Norris Sports and Super Over Sports again for stepping up and giving away equipment. Now, one thing I'm always pressed on by people from other parts of the country is, oh yeah, you've got it going on with the little kids. But are any of your players making it past kids cricket? Are any of your players playing for adult teams or playing on the U.S. national side? And the truth is, when you start out with 7- and 8-year-olds, that process takes a few years. Ricky's kids are a good example of that, because when I first met Ricky's children, they were about yay high. They were still better cricketers than I could ever imagine being, but they were only about yay high. Now they're finally teenagers, and our players are starting to break through. And we have players that were capped this year on adult teams in the Washington Cricket League. So that kind of completes the circuit in my mind. We have players who started with us as children and are now playing on adult sides in the Washington Cricket League. So I was really, really happy to see that. We had players in the 16U age group participating in the USA Cricket Combines. Again, it's seeing that come to fruition, those little kids growing up and maturing into teenagers and adults. So we had kids in the USA Cricket Combines this year. And something else that was really big, and it's never been done in the United States, but we decided about a year ago we were going to go ahead and do it. We were going to create representative state sides, okay? Let me just say this. If you are a player here tonight who is on one of the Maryland state sides, 13U or 16U, think about this for a minute. There are Indian teenagers who are state cricketers. Somewhere tonight, either sleeping or awake or whatever they're doing in India right now. They are state cricketers. And when they go to school, their friends all know they are Indian state cricketers. And there are kids in England who play for English County junior sides who are English County cricketers. And their friends in school all know they are English County cricketers. And there's kids in Australia who play for the state junior sides. And their friends in school all know they are state cricketers. That's a special thing to be a state cricketer. If you are on one of the Maryland state sides, when you go home tonight, before you fall asleep, remind yourself, carry yourself a little differently. When you go to school, you know, act a little differently, because you are a United States state cricketer. And you are the only people in America that can say that right now. So congratulations for that. Now, these state sides that we formed would not have been workable or possible if we hadn't had people step up to be volunteer coaches. And I put out a call for volunteer coaches, and I advertised the pay as being $0. All it promised was hard work and dedication and giving of your time and energy. And as is always the case in Maryland, people stepped up and said, I'll do that. And we had volunteer coaches that traveled with our 16U team to California at their own expense, along with all the players who went at their own expense to California. We had people then that stepped up and became 13U coaches, and they volunteered their own time, and they continue to volunteer their time, because our state teams were not done when the weather got cold. Our state teams continue to work out at Super Over Sports over the winter and preparing themselves to be better cricketers when the weather breaks next spring. So it goes on and on and on, the spirit of volunteerism that drives Maryland cricket. Those state teams also were sponsored, again, by Super Over Sports and by Norris Sports. Gave equipment and uniforms in different cases. So our sponsors and our volunteers are really what makes all of this happen. To the future, we never ever stay still. We never ever rest on our laurels. We never ever say this is enough. There's always another 40 acres to plow ahead. And the next 40 acres coming, This year, we're going to have Ellicott City is going to be joining the schools cricket competition. They've got lots of schools jumping in down there, so the schools cricket competition will grow again. Laurel and Catonsville are two locations that are trying to put together teams to participate in the Maryland State Cricket Championship in 2019. So you could have more teams, more locations, more towns joining in the state cricket competition as we grow our footprint across the area. And it's going to be like this forever and ever and ever, because one thing I know about cricket is that when kids get a chance to sample cricket, when kids get a chance to play cricket for the first time, everything changes. They start talking to their friends, and all of a sudden more and more kids play cricket, and we grow and we grow and we grow. So 2018 was a pretty good year for us. I think 2019 will be a better year for us, just as I was sure that 2018 would be better than 2017. I thank all of you, because without you, it is not possible. I'm just the person that gets up here behind a microphone every year and bores you for a little while. You make it go. You make Maryland Youth Cricket happen. You have my gratitude. I thank you very much.